some of the negative things that came from this mindset is that I wasn't actually thinking about myself. I was thinking about the goal, and I would do anything and everything to get to that goal, regardless of who it was affecting, how it was hurting me. I didn't care, because for me, it was to get to the goal. And I never reflected on the things that I believed within myself to be true, because I was always people pleasing everybody around me. So even though my parents were the ones saying, suck it up, do it, I always felt like I had to do it for everyone else and not necessarily for myself. And I feel like that's negative, because ultimately the things that we do for ourselves, we should do them for ourselves and not for the people around us, because then we become people pleasers, which is in turn a limiting belief.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today our guest is coming all the way from San Antonio, Texas. Our guest is a former RN, a wellness coach, an author, a model, and an actress. She is deeply passionate about guiding individuals towards profound healing and self-discovery. From RN, our guest Samantha transitioned to embrace her soul's true calling, that is empowering others to heal from within. Samantha specializes in navigating mental health journeys through the transformative power of somatic healing, meditation, and deep intuitive work. Please welcome our guest today, Samantha Sphinx. Samantha, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being here today.
Thank you so much for being here. And to get started, I already gave you an introduction, but some of the work that you do, well, all the work that you do is pretty much towards healing and mental healing, spiritual healing. I wanted to ask you, what is your wellness coach practice? How did it get started?
So, the way that my practice got started all had to do with my own personal healing journey. And I'm really focused on self development right now. And because I have seen such a drastic change within myself, I decided to go ahead and create a business where I can offer tips and tricks and help guide others in their self development healing journey to be able to build whatever it is that they want to build for themselves. But the reason that it got started was because I had a sudden loss 3 years ago. My mom suddenly died. And so I went through like a deep, dark depression. I got put on, a lot of prescription medication, and just being in the healthcare field and knowing the way that I was taking care of my body and the way I was treating my body, I knew it was unhealthy. And so I decided to find other methods of healing, because the way that I was managing my depression and my anxiety following the death of my mother was not a healthy way to cope with the loss of my mother. And so that's pretty much how it got started. It was all just because I was on my own self-healing journey. And now I want to be able to help others, because my life has progressed 100 times compared to what it used to be, 3 years ago when I lost my mommy.
So before that, how would you say was your relationship with the idea of mental health, healing, spiritual transformation? Did you have any relationship with that?
Yes and no. I was a Lutheran. Prior to becoming Lutheran, I was Catholic. But then when I got married, I went ahead and transitioned into Lutheranism, because my husband, or my ex-husband now, was a Lutheran. And, I would go to church on Sundays, but I was not nearly as spiritual then as I am now.
Okay. And then so in your upbringing, would you say that the idea of healing and resilience, was that ever part of your vocabulary, or has that only emerged in this chapter of your life?
So growing up, it's interesting. I grew up as a Catholic, and I grew up in the Catholic Church. We went to church. But I grew up in a low income family, and a lot of, I had a single mom, and my mom was always the person to be like, just do it, get it done, and even my father was always like, suck it up, just do it. So I always had this grit and resilience about me, but it wasn't necessarily related to spirituality and or any type of religion. It was more of a personality trait that I gained from my parents because they basically taught me like, my maiden name is Dutcher, and my dad would always say, like, Dutchers don't give up, Dutchers don't give up, suck it up, suck it up. And so I was just taught to suck it up. And so I've just sucked it up my whole life. So that's kind of how I've dealt with that. But it was never like spiritually based or anything like that.
So you had this grit mindset, and a lot that you were taught was suck it up, which can be helpful for some situations where you got to really suck it up and get the job done.
Yeah.
However, uh, were there any negatives that came out of this mentality of just suck it up, suck it up?
So some of the negative things that came from this mindset is that I wasn't actually thinking about myself. I was thinking about the goal, and I would do anything and everything to get to that goal, regardless of who it was affecting, how it was hurting me. I didn't care because for me, it was to get to the goal. And I never reflected on the things that I believed within myself to be true because I was always people pleasing everybody around me. So even though my parents were the ones saying, suck it up, do it, I always felt like I had to do it for everyone else and not necessarily for myself. And I feel like that's negative because ultimately, the things that we do for ourselves, we should do them for ourselves and not for the people around us because then we become people pleasers, which is in turn a limiting belief.
So that's a hard thing for some people to break. People pleasing, also being silent, because to just
Mhm.
suck it up means at times you just be quiet about what you're going through. But was there ever a moment where this ideology of suck it up, it just wasn't working for you? Was there like a breaking point?
Yeah, when my mom died, when my mom died was the breaking point for me. After my mom's death, I tried to suck up the death as much as I could, and I got put on antidepressants. I was drinking alcohol, I was smoking cannabis, I was doing everything and anything to numb myself, to suck it up, to suck it up, to suck up the depression, the anxiety, the loss of my mother, and I couldn't suck it up anymore. And that was 2 years ago, and that was when I realized like what I'm doing isn't working anymore. So I'm not sucking it up anymore. I'm actually feeling the feelings. I'm feeling the sadness, and I go within, and I cope better now.
So at that time of your mother's passing, you were still an RN and you were still married, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so for you as an RN and you're taking medication, antidepressants,
Mhm.
there are some people who may need a little chemical help
Mhm. Yeah.
to help them.
Yeah.
However, for you, as you were saying, you weren't really feeling the feels. Um, what changed in your approach? Because from an RN and taking antidepressants, and you were married at that time,
Mhm.
uh, what was going wrong?
So what went wrong? Okay. So when I first got put on my antidepressants, it was like heavenly. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm not sad anymore. So I knew there was a chemical imbalance to begin with. Okay. And I have nothing against antidepressants. They helped me get to where I needed to go. But when I started my antidepressants, I felt good. I felt good. But, 6 months, a year in, I was not only on one antidepressant, I was on two antidepressants. Then I was on a stimulant. Then I was on a sleep medication. And it's just like the medicines kept adding up and adding up. And it got to a point where my sex drive went away. I started just feeling like numb. I wasn't feeling happy around my kids anymore. Like I was just getting through the days. And it got to a point where me as a nurse, critically, I knew that what I was doing wasn't healthy. And when I went to go talk to my doctor about, you know, my energy levels and things like that, they just wanted to give me more medicine, more medicine. And at this time, I was already on five medicines. And I just I couldn't do it anymore. In my mind, I was like, I'm drinking alcohol almost every other day. I'm smoking cannabis. I'm on, multiple medications. And I just looked in the mirror and I just didn't recognize. One day I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself anymore. And I just felt like the things that I had been doing to my body at that time were not healing me. And being the critical care nurse that I am, I knew that I was inflicting pain on myself internally rather than coping with the things that I needed to cope with. And so a year ago, no, not a year ago, 2 years, was it like a year? No, 2 years ago, I started meditation. And meditation is what led me down my healing journey.
Okay, well, what led you to meditation in the first place?
I wanted to figure out a way to cope with my emotions. And I started doing research and looking up for holistic ways to heal myself because at this point I was like, okay, I need to get off all of these medicines. Like there has to be some holistic approach. And so I just started researching and I fell upon meditation. I found a book on Amazon, and next thing I knew, I was deep in it. I went down a rabbit hole and I've been meditating ever since. So I've been meditating for almost 2.5 years now. No, 2 years. It's like 2 years now.
And so, how has this new approach changed your life?
Oh my gosh, how has it changed my life? So the first year that I started meditation, it was a change. It was very different for me. I didn't know how to silence my mind. I thought that I knew what it was to have a quiet mind, but I never knew what that was actually like until I started meditation. And the meditation has taught me a lot about going within yourself and really just silencing your mind to figure out what it is in your life that isn't working for you and how to balance out your nervous system. And with the meditation, obviously, like I went down this rabbit hole, I started learning about other things. I started learning about breath work. I started learning about somatic healing. I started learning about the nervous system. And this is the thing, like I was a critical care nurse, and you think that I would know these things, but I knew none of this. None of this. Nobody had ever talked to me about meditation. I didn't know about somatic healing. I didn't know about balancing out my nervous system. For me, being the critical care nurse that I was, it was always just like, here's a pill, here's a pill. The doctor said, do this, eat your vegetables, try to cut back on the junk food. But meditation had never been an option for me. And I just fell upon it via Google research.
So it's interesting how you're saying that you didn't know about this side of holistic healing, of meditation, deep breathing exercises. But also, I wanted to ask you, how did it transform your relationships? Because, well, I mean,
A lot has happened since I started meditation. Yeah, no, it really changed my relationships so much, so much. I had to deal with a lot of spiritual narcissism following my decision to change the path that I was on because, like I said, I was originally Lutheran. And so I ended up deciding to, go into meditation. I don't consider myself a religious person. I'm more spiritual. But, I do a lot of Buddhism prayer now. I do a lot of, meditative things, and a lot of my family and friends didn't agree with that. And so a lot of my relationships changed. I've lost a lot of friends. I don't talk to, like, I used to have so many friends at the hospital. I don't talk to anybody from work anymore. A lot of family members no longer speak with me because in their mind, they see it as I'm practicing witchery, or they just don't agree with it. And that's okay, that they have, the right to their own opinion. But it has definitely changed my relationships. Even in my marriage, we just weren't in alignment anymore spiritually, and it was better for us to go our separate ways, because I genuinely just felt like there was nothing we could do together anymore because we weren't spiritually aligned. So yeah, my life pretty much unraveled.
mhm. It unraveled, but when do you think it started to build up again?
Just trusting myself. And the fact of the matter is trusting myself and realizing how freaking powerful I am and knowing that I literally don't need anybody else but myself. And I find that power in meditation and prayer and connecting to God. And that's all I really need. I don't really need anybody else anymore. Like I have three children. I love my babies. I need my babies. But other than that, like I just have learned to not attach myself to people because if you attach yourself to people, it just makes you sicker and it, increases your anxiety. And I'm not saying don't attach yourself to people because yes, I'm attached and I love people, but I've learned the power of detachment and not giving too much of myself to people when my value to the relationship isn't valued. Does that make sense?
It does, because earlier you were talking about being brought up with this suck it up and people pleasing sort of personality. And
Mhm.
now you're pretty much saying having boundaries and also
Yeah.
knowing yourself, loving yourself, but importantly, really knowing yourself. And now that you know yourself, you know you have this background with being a caring and loving nurse, and now you're getting involved in the healing with the transformative power of somatic healing, meditation. How did this journey from a self-healing journey evolve into you becoming a holistic coach?
So I became obsessed with meditation, and I'm going to tell you why I became obsessed with meditation. While I was on my journey and I started my meditation, I realized that there was something called manifestation. And when you meditate and you visualize these things that you want for yourself, you can actually create them. I was never aware of that. As said earlier, I had goals and ideas, but the way that it was taught to me as a child was through a scarcity mindset. Like you have to work so hard, money doesn't grow on trees, you have to bust your ass, you have to do this, do that. And so that's what I was taught. But when I started my meditation and I started reading books, I'm obsessed with freaking Audible. I've read so many books. I went into rabbit holes on research with the nervous system, with, the neuroplasticity of our brain. I went crazy in research. And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, I can literally manifest whatever I want. And I started manifesting. I started creating things that I didn't even know that I could create. And once I started creating things for myself, I was like, oh shit, like what else can I do? And I literally just went balls deep into it and I just started creating the reality of my dreams. And here I am, 2 years later, and never ever did I expect to be launching a wellness business. Never ever did I expect to become a model or an actress or have a YouTube channel. I mean, since I was a little girl, I always wanted to be on the screen. Like I wanted to be a news reporter. I wanted to be an astronaut. Like I saw big things for myself, but as I grew up, those dreams diminished. But they were diminished because the people around me weren't encouraging me, weren't empowering me, weren't supporting me. It was just make money, make money, make money, make money, make money. You know what I mean? And the last couple of years, I realized that I don't have to bust my ass to make money. All I have to do is sit in prayer, meditation, find the power within myself, and manifest the life of my dreams and create those ideas in my mind and remove the limiting beliefs so that I can build what I want.
And
But it was,
so
just sorry, go ahead.
when you were building this, because I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. So for you, when you're getting involved in this new approach, manifestation and doing things that might be out of your comfort zone, what was one of the first big things that you did, which might have been scary in the past, but now you made it possible?
So my husband and I actually had a business a year ago, and that was one of the first things I had manifested. Because when I started going to therapy after the loss of my mother, my husband was like, "What makes you happy? Like, what are your hobbies? Like, what is it that you want to do?" Because I didn't know who I was, like my mom died and I was just like, who am I? What am I doing? Like, yes, I'm a nurse. Yes, I'm a mom. But one of the questions that my therapist asked me is like, what do you like to do? Who are you? What do you like to do for fun? I was like, I like to go to the gym. She goes, no, you do that for your health. Like, what else do you like to do? I was like, I don't know what else I like to do. And so I started, brainstorming, who am I? What do I like to do? I love home improvement. I love watching HGTV. And one of the first things I manifested was I want to flip a house. I want to create a business because by this time I didn't want to be in the hospital anymore. Every time I would go to the hospital, I would just think about my mom and it was really hard being in depression and having to go to a hospital and take care of, really sick people. And so one of the first things I manifested was my home improvement business. And when my mom first died, we tried to sell her house. We could not sell her house at all. It was on the market for a year. It didn't sell. Year two is when I started my meditation. I started manifesting like money. I was like, I need money to buy a house. I need money to buy a house. Like that's what I wanted. And literally, I think it was like 3 months after I started meditation, my brother, my older brother, had reached out to me. He said, "Hey, I'm putting mom's house on the market." My mom's house sold in 3 days, and I got the money to buy my property in downtown Austin, Texas. Had a house in downtown Austin. I had a house in downtown Austin for about a year. However, we had a contractor who came in and took $80,000 from us and basically just ghosted me. And when I had other contractors to come and look at the house, everything was done illegally. Nothing was done correctly. Long story short, I lost my business. I lost the house. It fucking sucked balls. And I felt like my world was falling apart after that. I was just like, what the fuck? Like, I just lost $500,000. Like, what am I going to do? We have no more money. I took out my 401k. I did everything to try to save this business and I couldn't save it. But it was a closed door for a reason. And I now know why looking back. But I lost my business in April of this year. And that was probably the hardest thing that I had to go through was losing that business, but I manifested that business too. I just think that I wasn't in the right place to own a business at that time, but all I was thinking about was money, 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 money. And I had a scarcity mindset. And here I am now. And I'm like, okay, now I don't have a scarcity mindset. And the way that I'm using my money and the way that I'm building my business now is much different from when I had tried to build my home improvement business last year. And so it's a whole new journey for me, but that was probably one of the hardest things that I had to experience. And it was one of the first things that I created for myself. And it happened out of nowhere. I was like, how the heck did I just get this money? How the heck did I just like it just happened? But I lost it so fast.
Wow. So manifestation has its pros and cons, would you say?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
However, you were able to pick back up, and now you're going to be or have you already started your coaching business?
No, so my wellness coaching business actually launches next week. I've been working on the website, I've been working on the program, making sure everything is to a T for my clients because obviously, I want to build that really good client patient relationship. And so I've just been really focused on that and also focused on my own personal growth with like my modeling and acting career. But the business will be launching next week.
Okay, so
Excited.
yes, I'm excited for you too. And by the time this episode is uploaded to Spotify, YouTube, and all that good stuff, by the time it's uploaded, your business will already be up. So next week will be, what's the date for next week?
I think
Um,
the last week of Halloween, or the last week of Halloween.
it'll be the last week of October 2025. So by the time people are listening to this, your business will be up. And so my question for you, for those who might be in the audience and they might be, I'm kind of interested in learning more about this. What is it that your holistic coaching has to offer?
So my business is one-on-one coaching. Okay. And let's be real. Sometimes we all feel alone in this world and you feel like you're doing it by your damn self. I am going to be their biggest cheerleader. I am going to be their coach and I am going to walk them through the process of manifestation over 3 months. And I'm going to have different levels. There will be like a basic level, an intermediate level, and an advanced level. And obviously the advanced level is going to have more access to me, where I will be teaching them breath work. I'll be teaching them, skills in somatic healing. We will do journal entries. I'm also going to have a book club because I think in order to develop yourself, it's very important to gain knowledge and expertise from other people. Because I have found that a lot of times the people that we were raised with, or our friends or our family, a lot of times some of those people can have some of those limiting beliefs. And when we go to those people for support, we tend to get turned down or shut down or feel like we're not good enough because sometimes we compare ourselves to family members and friends, like, why do they have that and I don't? So I genuinely feel like having a wellness coach or a manifestation coach, someone who isn't in your circle, who can really cheer you on and build you up and give you the exact skills that you need to create the reality of your dreams, is very, very important, because sometimes doing it alone is hard. And I'm going to be honest with you. I did have a holistic health coach, and I also have a business coach right now, because guess what? The first business I had, I did not have a business coach. I was just like, YOLO, I'm going to do it by myself and I'll figure it out. I lost that business and I lost it so fast. This business, I have a business coach. I have somebody walking me through the process on how to create my business to make sure that I don't lose this business and that this business stays for a very long time. I've also had a holistic health coach who have helped guide me through using plant medicine and how to meditate and how to go within. And I just think it's really important for people to realize that we need support sometimes. Yes, you can do it on your own, but sometimes we need that cheerleader, and I will be their cheerleader to get them through the next 3 months of their life while they're building the foundation of whatever it is that they want to create for themselves.
Cool. And I know you're still working on launching the website, but like I said earlier, by the time that this episode is released, it'll most likely be out already. So what is the website going to be?
So the website is www.ss55.life, LIFE.
Perfect. So I'll leave that in the show notes. So if you missed that, and if the listener, if you're driving or you're not available to catch that, just check the show notes and I'll leave the link there. So thank you so much, Samantha, for sharing with us all about your transformation from your childhood to where you are today, and also the love that you want to give back to people, to help people in their own healing journeys, and to help people to reconnect with themselves. Before we conclude this interview, I'll ask you the same question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, Samantha, what is your truth that heals?
The truth that heals for me is love. It's love. It's ultimately love. The love that I'm going to start crying. The love that you have within yourself. If you love yourself so much and you believe in yourself and trust that God will give you the guidance and strength that you need in your life, you'll win. So it's love.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And to the listeners, thank you for tuning in to the Truth That Heals podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and please share this episode so that more people can discover the Truth That Heals presented by our guest today, Samantha Sphinx. And Samantha, thank you so much for being an awesome guest on my little podcast, The Truth That Heals.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it. This was exciting. Yay.